son once said to his father, "Be careful where you walk, because I'll be following in your footsteps." It was a beautiful Saturday morning on September 3rd, 2006. The sun was out, and together our group of 7 had over a century of friendship between us. As we hit the trail carrying nothing but our packs, we started beating our way through the thick and stubborn bushes as we reached our first sight of Phil's birthday gift. Mount Olympus. We helped one another up the steep terrain, taking small moments to capture the Salt Lake Valley as it grew further and further beneath us. About 3 hours in the hike, we started picking up our tempo. The summit was now in our sights. We were in such a state of focus that no one seemed to realize we'd stepped off trail and now become a key ingredient to a disaster waiting to happen. We made our way up the loose boulder field, while an 80-foot cliff with unquestionable death below it stood just feet away from us. As we carelessly pressed forward, Phil was climbing ahead and triggered a rock the size of a refrigerator. A 180-pound man managed to pull a 2,000-pound rock off the mountain away from its resting place. I heard the sounds. I immediately turned my attention to see this rock picking up momentum with every rotation down the mountain. Phil had now become part of that rock, picking up the same momentum with every rotation. In a matter of seconds, Phil reached the edge of that 80-foot cliff, and as he flipped over the edge, I will never forget seeing his eyes lock on his last chance at hope. Phil reached out for a tree on the edge of the cliff. He grabbed onto that tree, and it broke. Phil flipped over the edge and vanished out of my sight. I didn't even have time to react. I heard a scream. Jesse! The boulder had rolled over Jesse and left him in a defeated and bloody position. I ran over to him. He looked like he'd been a victim of a roadside bombing. It was the most blood I had ever seen in my entire life. I immediately took off my shirt and took off my belt and started tying Jesse's wounds. I didn't dare look over the edge of that cliff. I don't recall the amount of time during my assessment with Jesse, but something miraculous happened. I'm alive. Get me out of here. Phil. Phil had caught his arm in a tree and dislocated it. He was now free hanging on the edge of this cliff. He had been saved by his dislocated arm. Something he had had a problem with his entire life had now been the solution to saving his life. As a team, we used one another as anchors and balance to reach over the edge and grab Phil and pull him up onto solid ground. He was badly beaten up. He was alive. We waited on that mountain for 7 hours while news helicopters, search and rescue, and life flight assessed our situation. Those 7 hours strengthened our friendships in a way no one would have asked for. However, we would never give it back. Phil and Jesse were life flighted to separate hospitals, both entering immediate surgeries and intensive care. A few weeks later, they both came out on top, with nothing but some minor scars and really inspiring stories. That day, my backpack contained a bottle of water, a small first aid kit, a granola bar, and a roll of tape. Most of all, I was with my best friends. When we were on that mountain, it didn't matter what our bank accounts were, what car we drove, or who had the best job. As the sun set and the temperatures dropped, we all began to feel the true exposure of that mountain. In that moment, life was simple. As time has gone on, I've often thought back to this day. And I know it's not about what you carry in your pack. It's about who you're with and the path you choose. Imagine your entire life fit into a backpack. All the material items you wanted so desperately, that were meant to make you so happy. How heavy is the pack? Feel the weight. Are you carrying unnecessary weight in your life? The more you add, the easier it is to step off trail. Remember, you never know who might be following in your footsteps. I hope you understand the lesson of this story. Never, ever go climbing for a birthday party. Instead, have your cake and eat it too. Madam Toastmaster.